Y'all, remember this guy? I made a video about him. I'll put a link in the description. Please go check it out. Now, in that video, he made quite a few comments, but here's just a little taste of something he said previously.
There's going to be a wave of public discourse that's going to start next month in August that is designed to generate such momentum to push the UAPDA across the line. So in particular, what's going to start this will be a book that's coming out by a gentleman named Lue Elizondo, who was kind of the original guy, started this all in 2017, helped get those videos out to the New York Times. He was a guy who he's a career, absolute boss inside the Pentagon. He was a member of what's called the Intelligence Support Activity, kind of like Delta Force, but would go behind enemy lines to scout things out. He counterintelligence officer, counterterrorism officer, did a bunch of stuff, and it was tapped basically to run the this UFO program inside the Pentagon in 2008. And so he's coming up with this tell-all book, basically called Imminent, in
title.
In August. Then there's gonna be 2 documentaries coming out with people that no one's heard of yet that are gonna make pretty eye-opening claims, and that those people will have the credentials to back those claims up.
Can you say what those claims are?
I mean, basically that everything David Grush said in testimony is true.
So
right?
that they've retrieved craft.
Yes.
And that they've found biological.
Yeah.
beings.
Essentially what the UAP says, which is that there are these legacy programs to retrieve and exploit, reverse engineer technologies of unknown origin and biological materials. Those programs exist.
Matthew Pines was recently on That UFO podcast, and he made some other additional comments about this new documentary that's coming out from Lue Elizondo. At least that's my impression. Here's a clip. Let's take a look.
You mentioned 2 documentaries coming out, one of which I'm assuming is going to be James Fox, the program, which we know is due. I think it's going to be probably early next year before we see that, just with James putting out his updates and whatnot. Looking like it's going to have first-hand witnesses, we hope, from some of these programs. I'm guessing in that shadowy background sort of thing we're used to on TV shows, like when Bob Lazar first came out, for example, and discussing perhaps their roles. That would be incredibly interesting. But you did mention a second, and I've seen loads of speculation online, Matthew, as to what that second documentary would be. Is that something you can elaborate on?
I don't think I can share too many details about it. I'm not in it, but the information about it was shared in strict confidence. So I'll just say that I'm aware that there is a very serious second documentary. It might have overlap with James Fox's documentary, which I think will be very compelling on its own right, at least my understanding. I know he's working very hard on it as a documentarian. It takes a lot of work. Yeah. I believe there's a second documentary in the works. The timeline is, like any documentary, kind of subject to revision, but it is, on track, sometime this year, is my understanding. Obviously, those things could be delayed. And we'll have individuals, with serious credentials talking about the subject in ways that haven't been spoken of publicly before. That's my understanding.
I'm going to really annoy people here and say that on that documentary that I'm aware of, when you mentioned before that with media projects, they can be announced before anything even happens, and then things can happen that they don't even end up seeing the light of day. We know there have been movies made that are literally filmed and with $100 million budgets that are then scrapped for various reasons. So I think it's one, from what I've heard, people shouldn't be too surprised if it didn't come out, or at least there's a massive delay on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not a part of the production process, and I think
me neither. No,
these sorts of things can swing week to week, right? So all I'm aware is that there is a serious effort underway with serious people involved, and the objective is to obviously push out a documentary. Beyond that, right, things can change. So that's where I would leave
it. I think with what we're talking about, it must be incredibly difficult to get something like this up and out. Just for James Fox to do what he does on his own, to get the people he is trying to get and hopes to get on screen for these, must be so difficult. Look how hard it was for Grush to do what he done, and he done it so well, but look at the blowback on it across the board. And for James Fox to now have to go and try and find multiple Grushes, essentially, to go on camera in documentary form. That must be difficult. So again, for anyone else trying to do that, it might be a bigger production. It could be a bigger budget. There could be more people involved, in which case that may make things more difficult or easier. I don't know. But yeah, that second documentary, like I've seen some folks suggest maybe kind of smaller names, smaller entities being involved. And like you say, I don't think that's it. I think it's a much bigger.
Yeah, I'm sure there's multiple documentaries, on the side.
There are loads coming
right?
out. But yeah, none of the ones that people are
The
hearing.
one that I was thinking of, I would put it on par with, James Fox effort.
So yeah, looking forward to that. But definitely with James is coming out, 100%. I think that could be a big leap.
Now, after hearing all that, I get the impression that this may be the same documentary that David Fravor spoke with Ryan Graves on his podcast, Merged. Here's a clip.
Well, Dave, it was an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
I think, to your point, we are going to see a lot of changes in this area over the next few years. So perhaps we'll have you back on and we can discuss some of them.
Ryan, I hope we do, and I hope I get invited back. I think, there's some stuff coming out. There's the documentary that I know you're a part of that's going to be coming out that I think is going to be game changing. There's been a lot of stuff said, but I think this is going to have the right amount of people. I'm not saying who it is or when it is, but there is something being put together that I think, hopefully it will come out and it'll be, that one thing that pushes it over that says, all right, we can't, the cat is definitely out of the bag, because I think there's going to be some interesting information that comes out in it. So it'll be good. I think it's an exciting times. We
don't support the X-File themes here at all. So, all right, Dave. Thanks so
Twilight
much.
Zone. Yeah, thanks, dude. It's been great. Great seeing you.
So what do y'all think? We got this new documentary coming out potentially. Look, a lot of stuff coming out, right? So this Lue Elizondo documentary, but I'm not going to lie, the implication that potentially it won't get released, or at least it will be delayed. Delayed, I understand, but never released? That seems a little unusual, to be honest with you. I get that movies get made for $100 million and then scrapped. But let's be real, that is very few and far between, and they do that for tax purposes. That's it. So, I doubt any documentary that Lue Elizondo is working on and they spend $100 million, they're just going to scrap it for tax purposes. Right? So I have a good feeling that this documentary will come out. Now, granted, I'm a nobody and I'm an idiot, but that's my impression. So we'll wait and see, but it is interesting to hear. And it's also interesting to think about what kind of an impact a documentary can actually have. In my opinion, a lot. You ever seen The Jinx? You ever seen any of Michael Moore's documentaries? You ever seen Bill Maher's Religiosity or whatever it's called? Religulous, sorry. Even documentaries from the 60s, 70s, documentaries have always made an impact. So this should be no different. The only issue is some documentaries have become more entertainment-based. I get that. But I have a feeling these things are going to help move. James Fox's documentary, Lue Elizondo's documentary, I have a feeling they'll help. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. We'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace!
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.